Wow, it looks like that Terraform worked.
There we go. Wonderful. LiveKit is what powers ChatGPT's real-time voice and video capabilities. And in their words, it's a real-time platform that enables developers to build video, voice, and data capabilities into their applications. The tutorial I'm going to go through is under AI agents accepting inbound calls. So what we're going to do is walk through what they say to do here, and any step that they have that's related to the sort of setting up the infrastructure, we're going to see if we can move that into Terraform somehow so that we can quickly iterate if we need to change configuration. We can build it up, we can tear it down, do all the stuff that Terraform allows you to do. Let's quickly get an overview of what we're doing in this tutorial. So it assumes that we have a phone number. In this case, we're going to assume that we have a phone number on Twilio, and we'll do a little bit of a configuration to make sure we have the SIP trunk set up correctly. And then we'll have a LiveKit Cloud instance. We're going to have an account there that we're going to work with, and that'll populate. We'll use that to populate some of these things. And then from there, they have some templates that'll create a Python version of the AI agent that's actually going to answer the call. And yeah, we'll do a little bit of configuration. This is all stuff that will move into Terraform. Create the inbound trunk inside of LK, which is the LiveKit CLI agent. Create a dispatch rule. And that's about it. At that point, once we walk through this, essentially this one page, we should be able to make a call. So that will be our success criteria for this particular tutorial. Okay, so I've logged into LiveKit Cloud, which you can do here, and I've exported these environment variables, and now let's move on to the next step. I'm going to create the agent from a template. We'll call it my app. Enter OpenA key, that's already there. We'll just skip it. Okay, and then it gives us this next thing to do here. All right, so let's work on that. Okay, so I've stepped into my app directory. I've activated the virtual environment. I pip installed the requirements, and now we'll just run the command. So this is our agent. So this reaches out to the LiveKit server, the LiveKit cloud server. And if we can wire up Twilio to talk to the LiveKit cloud server, then all of a sudden we'll get traffic that will connect through WebSocket to this local agent that's running here. Okay, so now we need to do a little bit of work in Twilio. So I scrolled back up to the top here, and you'll see there is, we talk about creating and configuring the SIP trunk. So this is where we're gonna now start doing some Twilio stuff. We already have a phone number. We installed the Twilio CLI, so you can follow through on those things. We created a Twilio profile. And this is what we would normally do. But what we're going to do now is we're going to start building this up inside of Terraform so that we are able to not only create this, but also tear it down if we want to, things like that, and just have this all automated. So let's try that. Okay, so I've created a Terraform directory here, and I've done tf init. I installed Terraform with Homebrew for me on the Mac OS. That may change for you if I'm in a different system. But so now we have a just empty Terraform project. I won't go too deep into how Terraform works, but I mean, the basic idea is that it has a state file, and that is able to keep track of your different resources and their IDs so that it can reach out ideally through like an API, like a Twilio API, for example, and like tear down infrastructure that it created or update it or whatever it is, create it from the beginning, all those things. So now what we'll do is we'll create a main file and work from there. So here's some basic setup. There's a main.tf file here, and you put your providers in, and your providers are what talk to your APIs. So hopefully the idea was that we could talk to Twilio directly via API. I'll skip to the the outcome, which was that I wasn't able to use the Twilio provider. Does not work for in all cases, and there's no LiveKit provider that really does anything. So we do another kind of workaround, which is called a null provider. So we'll see a lot of those, and that's essentially what we do is we shell out to the local environment, and then we can run shell commands. So it's like a fancy bash script, really. But it does, Terraform still gives you some nice features that allow you to sort of have hooks for when things are torn down, and when they're created as well. So you'll see how this all plays out. We'd still use the Twilio provider because it allows us to go out and get an existing phone number and pull back like the ID for that we referenced throughout. Then over here, these are your variables file, and these are the ways that you can pull in secrets from your local environment. There's this tf-vars file that populates this, and that's essentially, it's kind of like a .env type of file, but for Terraform. So this doesn't do anything just yet. If we do a tf init, it should install these providers, the null provider as they call it in the Twilio provider. And then if we do what's called a tf plan, that'll tell us what our infrastructure changes are going to be. And nothing yet because we haven't added any yet, but let's try that now. We'll try to add something. Okay, here's where it starts to get interesting. We basically want to run this command, right? The Twilio API trunking. So back to Terraform here. We basically ported that over and we're interpolating the variables into it. But here's the part that's kind of nice, is that there's this destroy hook. And so when this is when we say tf plan, it's going to show us, let me get rid of some of the extra stuff I have here that comes later, but yeah, so I think we'll just get one resource, yeah. So one resource, the Twilio trunk, and this is directly tied to this command that's gonna run like a shell script, it's gonna shell out to run this command. And the only reason that this is any better than just running a bash script is that we have this ability to run a destroy hook, and so right now we'll say tf apply, and that will create the, let's see if it works. Okay, so that worked. And now we've created this command is successful. But if we also say tf destroy, it has reference to it, and it keeps track of, it does a little bit of shell scripting here stuff to get access to what the ID of that resource was, and now we can just, based on that, we can destroy it. So really, in essence, that's the benefit here of having the Twilio inside of the Terraform environment, is that you're able to manage it up and down. And also, if you mutate it, if you change it, you can there's some sort of facilities to be able to notice when like a configuration file changes, and based on that, it's going to tear down the resource and recreate it. Again, it would be nicer if we had a direct provider, Twilio provider and LiveKit provider, that would be able to like just update a resource instead of tear it all the way down and recreate it. But this is better than nothing, I would say. All right, so now we're just going to walk through the other commands that they have you run with the Twilio CLI. And basically, we're just pulling those in here, copying and pasting them, and then doing a little bit of work to, once that's created, once these different resources are created, we do a little bit of work to figure out what their Twilio IDs are so we can reference them if we want to take down that same resource. So now if we do, let's see, I think I created all those, destroyed. Let's see if I apply. Yeah, there was one, I was creating credentials and that ended up clashing with something I already had inside of Twilio. So there's just a mismatch in what Twilio thought the state was and what Terraform thought the state was, which happens, unfortunately. So I pulled it out, and we'll worry about that later. All right, now we're going back to LiveKit. We already ran this voice agent template command. Now that we have Twilio stuff set up, we're going to set up LiveKit to receive the call that comes from Twilio. And so that's where we basically are running, this is just a JSON file, and we take that JSON file and run this LiveKit command against it. So you'll see, let's see which one that is, inbound trunk. So that's what happens here. We create a local file that represents that JSON, and then we are gonna do a little bit of work to set up the environment and then run the same command. This gets a little gnarly because we're having to, there's probably nicer ways to do it, but right now we're going out to LiveKit and trying to pull back the ID for these different resources so that we can manage them. It's a little bit ugly, but nonetheless, once it works reasonably well, and we have the ability to manage it. Let's LiveKit set up. Let's see, what do we do? I think this might have gotten merged into one command. So we have the inbound, hang on one sec, I gotta see where this even got created. It's inbound create. So somewhere in here we have inbound create. It got messy enough that I lost track. LiveKit create. So here's the inbound create command, and you can see we have to do all the shell stuff to get back trunk ID, and then there's a second command which is creating the inbound dispatch rule, which is going to be in the docs here. Dispatch rule, the little JSON file that you want to reference in this dispatch command. And again, this is not the prettiest stuff ever, but with Cursor doing most of the hard lifting here, it's not so bad. Let's see what our Terraform plan, we'll do it to tf apply, and we can choose if it looks good or not. Let's go tf init to install some more of the packages that new file, the LiveKit file, relies on. Do a tf apply. So it's going to add 4 new things. Again, it would be nice if we had a LiveKit provider, but we do not really. There was one that just did something that was not very useful. It didn't do all this creation of these different resources. So there we go. All right, so now here's the cool thing. We should be able to go back and run our Python agent. So let's try that and see if we can actually take a call. Okay, so I've started the agent here, the dev agent on my local machine, and I'm going to give it a call, and it should connect through my Twilio number. Let's try it.
Hey, how can I help you today?
Okay, thanks for taking my call. You're wonderful. Cool, that worked. Okay, and now just to have some fun, we'll change the greeting to something a little more festive. Wow, it looks like that Terraform really worked. Let's see what happens.
Wow, it looks like that Terraform worked.
There we go. Wonderful. My daughter gives a laugh as well.